Okay, there we go. You ready? All right, holler at me if you have a question. So, writing linear equations. So we have two forms, and the first form is slope-intercept. That's what you've seen for your entire life. In Algebra 1, when you were writing equations, you saw slope-intercept form. So remember, m is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. The other form we have is called point-slope form, and think about it more as a starting spot than anything else. Okay? So, point-slope form says that I have an x and a y, so I have a point, x1, y1, on a line, and m is still my slope. Like I said, think about point slope as like a starting spot. So we're just going to use that point slope in order to write the equation. When we finish, we always want it in slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, back in the day of Algebra 1 and even last year when you were in geometry, you had practice writing equations. Okay? As long as, if you're comfortable doing it one way and it's not the same way that I do it, that's perfectly fine. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with point slope form, and I'm going to show you how you simplify it and you end up in slope-intercept form. If you're comfortable typing or plugging in x and y and b and you're finding all those things and you go back to it, that's perfectly fine as well. Okay? Do what you're comfortable with as long as it works. Alright, so I'm going to start with point slope form. So I'm going to say y equals m. It told me my slope was -3/5. X minus, and it gave me this point, 5, -2. So x1 is 5, and y1 is -2. Okay, now let's distribute. -3/5 times x is still -3/5 x. A -3/5 times a +5. Yep. Sorry. A -3/5 times a -5 will give me a +3. Yes, that's what I meant. Plus a -2 or -2. So I'm going to combine these two guys right here. So y equals -3/5 x plus 1. So I started out with point slope form. I had a slope and a point, and when I simplified it and distributed, I ended up in slope-intercept form. Does that make sense? That's kind of why I like point slope form. The other thing that's nice about point slope form is it gets us used to, so here's what we have, y equals m. So this guy's a line. When I add a exponent there, all of a sudden this guy is now a parabola. And we call this guy vertex form. Okay? So what it does is it gets us used to seeing things in this form, and then we can just throw an exponent up there and then we see a parabola. That's the other thing I like about it. Okay? Okay. Cool. Questions on that first one? Okay, number 2. It says write an equation of the line that passes through 2, -3, and -3, 7. Did they give us the slope this time? No, they didn't, right? They gave us 2 points. So what we skipped in section 3, 2-3, was the whole slope equation. Remember, the slope equation is the difference in the y's over the difference in the x's. Okay? Essentially, that was the section 2-3 that we skipped. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Also, remember that it's rise over run. The y's are the ups. The x's are the runs. Sideways. Okay? So in number 2, they didn't give us the slope. Well, to do any of this, I have to have the slope. So I need to calculate the slope. Does it matter which one is x1 and y1 and x2 and y2? No, just keep it consistent. Okay? So let's find the slope first. I'm going to do the y's on top. So I'm going to do a 7 minus a negative 3. I could have done negative 3 minus 7. And then, since I did 7 first, I also have to do the negative 3 first. Negative 3 minus 2. Minus a minus becomes a plus. 10 over negative 5, which then reduces to... Keep going. No, try again. 10 divided... There you go. Negative 2. Shine up for the assist. Okay, so my slope is negative 2. My line passes through both of those points. So when you plug it in, it doesn't matter which one you use. You get to pick. Okay? Colden, which one do you want to use? Tell me which point you want to use.
Minus 3.
You want to use this one? You got it. So, y equals, my slope we just determined was negative 2. X minus a negative 3 plus 7. Minus a minus becomes a plus. So now let's distribute. Negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 3 gives me negative 6. Plus 7. Combine like terms. Negative 2x minus 6 plus 7 gives me a positive 1. All right, questions on either one of those first two ones? Okay, number 3. As a part-time salesperson, Jean Stock is paid a daily salary plus a commission. When her sales are $100, she makes $58. When her sales are $300, she makes $78. So she works for a commission. So when she goes to work, the more she sells, the more money she makes. Think about like a car salesman or a furniture salesman, or sometimes they have them at the mall, the clothing store. I think the Buckle used to be like that. I don't know if they still are. But the more they sell, the more money they make. Okay? Sometimes you also get money just showing up for work. So she gets money just showing up to work. So she gets a daily salary. So she gets money for being there and then makes more money when she sells more. So let's think about in terms of ordered pairs. when her sales are $100, her take-home pay is $58. Not too bad, right? Okay. When her sales are $300, she makes $78. It depends. So I think it really depends on the job. Does that make sense? Yeah, and how good you are at selling things. Me, I'd probably not make a lot of pay. That would require me to talk to people that aren't teenagers, and I don't like that. So it depends on how you good are at like selling, and if you like to talk to people and that sort of thing. Think about like real estate. So you've got to be good at talking to people and doing all that sort of thing. So you could make a lot of money at once, that sort of thing.
We're on 2-4 right now, right?
We are. Page 9 of your notes, JJ. Okay, so we have two ordered pairs. It says write a linear equation to model this situation. Okay, so to write a linear equation, we need a slope and we need a y-intercept. Okay, so let's calculate our slope. So I'm going to do 78 minus 58, difference in the y's, divided by the difference in the x's, 300 minus 100. $78 minus 58 is 20. 300 minus 100 is 200. Now, if you like fractions, you can go that goes all the way down to a tenth. But let's think, when we're talking like money, right? When we are getting commissions and things like that, usually they get a percentage. So let's take this guy to a decimal. 0.1, right? That's a tenth. If you're not sure, remember you can put it in your calculator. Whoop. That's right. He's feeling it too. 0.1. Okay? Alright, so there's my slope. Does it matter which point you use? Nope, it goes through both of them. So I'm just going to use the first one because the numbers are smaller. So y equals 0.1 parentheses x minus 100 plus 58. Okay, let's distribute. .1 x minus, we want a tenth of 100. 10, right? Plus 58. Combine like terms, so I get y equals 0.1 x plus 48. Okay, so look there at B. B says, what are Miss Stock's daily salary and commission rate? So if she doesn't sell anything, X would be her sales, right? We talked about her sales being X. And what she makes is Y. Well, if she doesn't have any sales, if her sales are 0, what does she make? $48, right? So her daily salary, just for showing up to work, is $48. Now remember, she's part-time, so that's probably not too bad. Okay, so her daily salary... She's not doing... Yeah, right? 48 bucks, that's not bad. I'm not sure I do either. Okay, how about our commission rate? 10%, right? That's actually really good. You think about selling a house, their commission rate is like 3% or something like that. So she's got a decent gig going on here. So she gets 10% of whatever she sells. Okay, last question. How much would she make in a day if her sales were $500? Well, let's plug it in. We've got an equation that would predict that. So she gets 0.1 or 10% of $500 plus $48 for showing up to work. $10% of 500 is $50 plus her $48 salary. So she gets a total of $98. Okay, questions on number 3. Yeah, just to make it easier, and because we were talking about money. So normally when we're talking about money, we talk about percentages or decimals. Yeah, that's all. Okay, last one. Number 4. Says write an equation for the line that passes through 3, -2, and is perpendicular to the line y equals -5x plus 1. We got to talk about that perpendicular. What do you remember? Think back to geometry. What do you remember about perpendicular? What kind of slopes do perpendicular lines have? Opposite. One's positive and one's negative, right? So one's going to have a positive slope and one's going to have a negative slope. And then does anybody remember what we do to the slope? Thomas? Yeah, we reciprocal it. So a perpendicular line has slopes that are opposite reciprocal. Okay, so I have some line here, y equals -5x plus 1. What's the slope of that guy?
-5.
-5. Thanks, JJ and JT. Thank you. So the slope of this guy is -5. I want the perpendicular slope. Remember the upside down T from geometry means perpendicular. Yeah, 1 over +5. This guy's positive. Remember that would be like 5 over 1. So my perpendicular slope is 1/5. Okay, so I want to use this slope right here and this point right here, and I want to write an equation. Okay, let's do it. Y equals my slope, M, times x minus x plus my y. Remember, this guy is x1, this guy is y1. All right, distribute. Y equals 1/5 x minus 3/5 plus a negative 2. And combine like terms, so I have 1/5 x. I have a negative 3/5 and a negative 2. You can leave it as a mixed number. So minus 2 and 3/5. That's perfectly fine. I'm happy like that. You could put that as, what is that, 13/5? I'm okay with that too. Because it has a fraction in it, we should probably leave it with a fraction, so don't go to a decimal. Okay, what if it would have said parallel? What kind of slopes do parallel lines have? The same. So if that would have said I want a line that's parallel to this guy, then I would have used the same slope. Okay, so perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals. Parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, questions on writing equations of lines?